Okay, this one's going to be a fun one. So we've got all the pieces, we've got it painted, we've got it clear coated, all sealed. So now we can actually super glue all the pieces together and finally have it all come together and assembled as one. But before we do that, we need to actually prepare some of these pieces so that we can glue them efficiently. But of course, we need to remember that we need to put the LEDs in before we actually glue it all together, so that there's no parts that have to be disassembled for the LEDs, because obviously the LED sits inside the pieces, which is the head, the soul amber, which goes inside the arm, the hand, and the sword, and all these wires, they travel inside the body. But before we get onto that, let's do all these miniature pieces. Let's just get all these pieces reduced so we have less pieces to work with. But we've got the head done, we've got the shoulder pieces, and let's work on the legs now. So you see I'm pouring some super glue on part A, and on part B I spray some accelerator, and it just speeds up the process so that the super glue doesn't just start dripping outside. We can see we've got 5 pieces there glued together onto the legs now, and about to do the 6th one, which is the skirt kind of thing. Not a skirt, I don't know, a towel would you call it. And we're gonna do the crotch piece as well with the nice what would you call it, a bow tie? No, it's all the armor. So you see just on the legs itself, how many pieces is that? Is that like 8 pieces? So we were working with so many different pieces, and just seeing it all come together, that is just so satisfying. But yeah, I think I made a good choice of doing the paint job before I actually super glued the pieces together, because I wouldn't have been able to get into those crevices otherwise. It would have been a mission. So yeah, what would you call that? Would you call that even a belt, maybe? A bow tie? Not a bow tie, but whatever that is just beautiful. And now onto the body. So I'm actually preparing the holes for where the LEDs are gonna go, because I'm working with a few different sized LEDs, and these aren't the typical LEDs that I work with. These are diodes, I believe, individual diodes. So I did have an RGB one, but I think for that to work properly, where you can switch to RGB colors, you would need a controller of some sort. But instead I decided just to use a single color, and they're all going to be red. So no, we're not going to be able to change the color for the LEDs in Tenjin himself. So at the moment I'm working with the white, and as I just shoved it into the head, I just noticed that the eyes aren't glowing through, and this is because of a mistake I made. I think these were intended to be printed in clear resin rather than black, so I chose black, and the eyes do not shine through. So I thought, hey, you know what might make it work if I just drill some holes into the eyes, and that actually worked flawlessly for what I wanted it to look like. Would have been much easier if this was clear resin, but this worked just as well. So yeah, I am using a Dremel and a very precise grinding tool. And I got, how much voltage were these? I think they were running at 12 volts, these LEDs. But you can see that the light just goes right through the eyes now, and it looks amazing. But Tenjin, he has 4 eyes, not 2. So let's do the side eyes as well. I'm gonna go right through those eye sockets. So, because we've got a channel in there for the LEDs. And I was trying to be very precise so that I don't make the 2 holes next to each other join. They needed to be separate eye holes, and not just like one wide, one on each side. And you can see after I shove in that LED, you can see it looks like 2 eyes. It looks amazing. A bit like Gears of War almost. The locust in the Gears of War. I love the way that looks. So I was very happy with that. I was like, oh, I'm a genius, I'm a genius. And now we're shoving in some cotton just to diffuse the light so that it doesn't actually look like a light bulb inside there. So it will look like just a dispersed glow. And I think that works very well. So it doesn't look like 4 separate lights. It doesn't look like one light inside. It just looks like glowing eyes, which was kind of the point. Very happy with that. So see, this is the RGB lights that we got, and I really wanted them, but I have no way of controlling them. I mean, it's just 2 wires, ground and positive, so I have no idea how you would control that. So yeah, I decided not to use that, and I'll just use the solid red. And it was just flickering because I didn't have a solid connection. I was just having that wired up to crocodile clips, so it was not soldered at that time being. But you can see I need to wire that LED through the head, through the body, before I super glue it together. And I do a test fit before I actually apply the super glue, because it needs to be flush. If it's not flush and doesn't connect properly, I needed to Dremel it down until it does. The head and the body need to be solidly joined, touching each other, without the LED being in the way. So back and forth adjustment until I get that flush feeling without the head wobbling, because at this stage it was wobbling, and that's not a good seal. And we need it to not move once it's pressed together. Putting a bit more cotton because I think it moved a little bit as I was working with this, and now I can see that the head does not nudge or bobble, if that's the right word. So I think we're ready for the super glue now, and I'm going to do the same technique. I'm going to put some super glue on one part, as I'm doing here, and then I'm going to apply the accelerator on the other part, so that there's no dripping onto the areas that you're not supposed to see the super glue. Quite a generous amount as well. You see that I just sprayed the accelerator, and now we can just shove it in and do a quick test to make sure it works before it hardens fully. And we can see that the eyes light up. It's all good. Moving on to the Soul Amber. Again, same principle. We're gonna just adjust the size of the holes to make sure everything fits together before we do the finalize it with the super gluing, because once it's super glued, there's really no chance of it being disassembled because it's a tight seal. But that was pretty straightforward. The Soul Amber into the hand into the shoulder, through the body. The sword was a bit of a mission actually. It would have been much easier if that was a clear resin piece, because I had to adjust that a lot, because I wanted the light to shine through the hole of the handle. You can see it's just at the root at the base now, but I wanted to go I wanted the shine to shine all the way through that yellow part. So I'm going to do the same thing, Dremel some holes into the handle area to make it look like it's shining throughout the whole thing. Yeah, I shouldn't have needed to do this if I used a clear resin. Okay, we're getting some results now, and I'm going to Dremel the inside as well, just to reduce the thickness of that area so that it shines through easier. Really love having that Dremel. Oh my god, I had that Dremel for like over 10 years now. It is a beast. It just keeps going and going and going. And you see we've got a nice shine through now. Just doing some tests. I love the way that looks. That looks perfect. Okay, do some more light tests, because I think we're about to do the super glue. Not just yet though. We're going to shove in some cotton to make sure that the light is dispersed appropriately. And actually once that's shoved in, we had to disperse it and adjust the cotton so it's in the correct place. Like we can have some extra cotton at the base, but we have to reduce the amount at the end. So we have to think about the placement quite a bit. But it's best to do it with the lights on so you can see the effects live and make adjustments as needed. But that looks about good now, so we can actually super glue it together. Same principle, super glue on part A and accelerator on part B. And now we can finalize it and join all these wires together, because we've got 3 sets of wires now. We can join them together so it's one set, because all these 3 pairs, they're going to have to travel through the leg. So it's not really, there's no point of having all 3 wires travel through the leg, so you might as well just join them here at the body. So soldering them together, then insulating them with some insulation tape. And it's going to make it much thinner. Nice and easy soldering here. I'm using my trusty Hakko soldering iron. We are doing a quick test before we move on, in case I got any soldering wrong, which of course I didn't, because it's pretty straightforward. We were just working with thin RGB cables, not RGB, just thin core cables. And super gluing the back piece because we can seal it up nicely now. Having a bit of trouble actually shoving these wires through the leg, because I think we had some pieces that were supports inside the leg, so that did take a while to thread the needle. But we'll get there in the end. But we're actually going to make this even more modular by making the foot as a removable part. Not removable part, the whole Tenjin himself from the portal diorama is going to be removable, so you could remove it for just playing around with it. You'll see what I mean later on, guys. But we're finishing up this piece now with the leg, but we'll keep the wires just hanging out for now. But that just looks amazing, finally seeing it come together. So we're working with just individual pieces, but now we can actually see it all as one, and I'm stoked about it. So next up is going to be the actual portal that we're going to be working with, the diorama, the whole studio or his home, whatever you want to call it. That's going to be a fun one, guys. Tenjin is finished. Look at this. So the paint job for him is done. The portal is not finished yet. It needs to be colored. But have a look at the paint job. I glued it all together. I stuck the LEDs in. So we've got the LED in the soul amber. And the eyes, look at the eyes. Got them there. And on the sword as well. So yeah, I'm very pleased with the paint job. Just finished it now. Well, I finished the paint job yesterday, but I clear coated it yesterday and then super glued it today with the wiring of the LEDs and making the LEDs fit. So I'm very pleased with that. Don't you think this looks incredible? Guys, if you want to see the rest of the paint job, me painting the portal, subscribe, follow, and give it a comment, because this is hype. Look at that. Insane.